The next video is about Darius, and he is available for the very low mythic token requirement of 5. You only need to get 5 mythic tokens to get yourself a gold mythic Darius. However, to get the second gold mythic Darius from the mythic tokens, you will need 191. This is accumulated total, of course. If you want to work out how many mythic tokens you are going to be working with day 1 of when Conquest released, please check out my calculator. The second Darius is the second to last gold mythic that you can get out of the entire museum collections. So that must mean he's a pretty good character, right? Let's have a little look. Hello survivors, and welcome to another Walking Dead Road to Survival video. And in this video we're going to be taking a first look at Mythic Darius, who is of course going to be available in the museum. I believe you can get 2 of him in there. My intro should have probably told you that. But visually on the right hand side we can see he's kind of falling in line with the characters like Aaron, where he's looking very knightly indeed. He's got the big long sword, he has got the armor on as well, but he has got a random SMG around his waist. A bit of a but it does actually fit. It does actually look kind of like fitting. I don't know, that's kind of random. On the left hand side we see him fully geared out with the helmet as well. We also see, maybe is that like a skull on his shoulder pads? I'm not 100% certain. It is a double hander on the sword. Big sword, and you can see sort of the SMG on the right hand side. If we look at those stats as a tier 5 fully maxed out level 600 gold mythic character, he has got 12,471 attack, 14,751 defense, and 14,598 HP. This is probably some of the highest stats we've seen on a defensive character so far, where both are over 14,500. He is of course a strong character holding that 2-handed sword. He is also the first tank we've taken a look at in these previews. He is a mythic character, and lastly he is part of the Knights. He is the 3rd character that I've previewed part of the Knights. The first being Aaron, and then of course we also had Wayland as part of the Knights Allegiance. Now look at his adrenaline rush, and it is called Infuriating Flurry. It is a 66 AP cost rush. Deal 2 attacks of 200% damage, 400% total to 1 enemy. 2 enemies get taunt and minus 30% attack for 2 turns. So this potentially could take down an enemy. I kind of see Darius as being more of a defense team character when I look at this rush and I see the stat balance. 200% twice to an offensive character should deal quite a lot of damage, but the taunt and the attack down is obviously going to add to that quite nicely. I don't think this rush is actually that bad, and on a defense team he should get it up quite easily. Being 66 AP on an attack team will be a little bit harder, especially being a strong character and not being able to hold any of those weapons to give AP to himself. Okay, so we have got Darius's rush up. I have taken an extremely low level character in the top right hand corner. This is just to see that if he does take out a character with that first attack on the rush, is it 2 extra enemies that get taunted, or is it the character that you target plus 1 other? We'll have a little look. It should take him out in the first hit, you'd hope. Attack's going to come in. Just a bit of damage. We didn't take out Jesus. Let's see who's taunted. I can see it's Magna, and I think that's it. We do only get 1 taunt off if we take down a character. It isn't 2 extra characters if you take down that first character like some characters' rushes can be. But that isn't necessarily terrible. Obviously the takedown means that character is downed. They're not going to be able to rush, they're not going to be able to do any signature moves, and the extra bonus on top would just be 1 other taunted enemy. However, the wording does seem to make out that it's 2 enemies get taunted if you take down the first character. Characters that we've had work like this in the past have been S-Class Michonne, 6-star Shiva, where they take out 1 character and then 2 characters get confused. Bit odd wording here. Maybe it's going to be changed. Maybe it's something that is going to be edited in the future. But, you know, it is in beta right now, so there is definitely a chance for people to report any issues they think is an issue. And I kind of think this one's maybe a little bit of an issue. However, if it isn't, and it is the way it's meant to go, if he is on a defense team, his damage should still be very impactful. 400% damage. That can obviously crit 2 times. That can obviously do 2, on attack weapon procs. Attack team weapons generally are offensive, so they don't have on defense. And like I said before, I see Darius as being that defense team character. We'll move across to his signature move to see how much more defensive he gets. It is called Carefully Aimed Swing. It has got an initial cooldown of turn 2. It has got a cooldown of 2 turns. Number of uses right now of 999. Make a critical hit attack against an enemy. This character gets 35 crit for 2 turns. So basically this is like doing a 100% attack that we see on other people's signature moves. However, instead of theirs being a lottery if it's going to hit a crit, where it can happen based on the character's base crit, based on 1535s, based on their mods, Darius is guaranteed to make a crit. This is actually pretty interesting. It doesn't seem to influence much more on his kit unless he's got something in his passives nice and hidden, but that is going to be a guaranteed crit damage hit over just a normal 100% basic attack effectively. He'll get 35 AP for this. He then gets a crit bonus for 2 turns, which again, like I say, is a little interesting. I'm not sure how effective that's going to be. I mean, it will make his rush the next turn be more powerful, or like a chance to be more powerful because it can crit. But we'll have to see what his passives bring. Okay, so we are on the second turn. To be able to do his signature move, I can select Jesus here and we can swipe left. I will be guaranteed to do a crit here. It will be enhanced because it is going to do trait damage. And we should have Darius himself getting a little crit buff on top because of it. He's going to hit the crit, 4,000 damage. He did get a stun. I think I've got a stun on attack weapon here. That is obviously always something worth noting. Their signature moves can obviously proc the weapon in the hands of the person who's holding it. He gets a 15% heal for 2 turns because he's got a healing stun weapon, but he also gets a crit buff, which we should see. There we go. So he's got 35 crit. I do wonder what that is actually going to be bringing to the table, though, for the rest of his kit. So yeah, honestly, not sure about this signature move. I think we're going to have to move on to the passive abilities to really have a good idea of what the crits are about and why a crit buff will be useful for Darius here. And if we do that, Mythic Abilities, Darius's passive skills. He does have strength because he is a tank. This is the first tank we've actually come across in the previews. It means he gets 20% critical hit resistance. That is actually kind of nice. This means that he will block a crit. Not just like reduce the incoming damage, but completely block a crit 20% of the time. This is again something you can't have on your combat mods. Any characters where there's specialist skills or weapons that rely on hitting crits, he has a 20% chance of resisting that initial crit. So things like Rampage cannot work. Collateral damage cannot work. This is actually kind of nice, especially on those random hit rushes that a couple of these characters have, where it could randomly target Darius and he will just resist the crit and it will massively reduce the incoming damage against his team. And this is obviously on every single tank that comes into the game. The next one is Fearlessness. When taking damage from an adrenaline rush, reduce that damage by 20%. So where I said the critical hit resistance wasn't a reduction, this is, and 20% is a lot. He already has extremely high base defensive stats. You're going to pump both of those up nice and high with the mods, with the weapon buffs, with the leader skill, and this is just going to be a greater reduction in damage that he's going to receive. Plays into the kit nicely as a tank. I like this a lot. Next up is over here. When attacking targets with a taunt status, he gets 30 crit. He obviously can taunt characters, so you would think that maybe after he's got a taunt up, he will focus that character potentially. That's generally how it works with other characters, like a neutralized character will target someone who they can neutralize that turn. So that'll be interesting. Again, there's more crit in the kit. I'm not really sure. Quick healing. Healing received by this character is 20% more effective. I like this a lot, but he is a strong character. It does mean he's not going to have any weapons where he can be sort of self-sufficient. He's not a fast character with fast healing. He's not a tough character with tough healing. So it isn't going to be as amazing as it potentially could be on one of those traits. But it does mean that any other medics that heal him, he will get the bonuses there. None of his kit gives him heals otherwise, but so far, I actually think this is kind of cool. Okay, so we're going to see his damage reduction potentially come in. You'll see the red text go above Priya's name when he blocks crits, because it will just say, it will probably just say like crit blocked or something like that. And then it will obviously say when the rush damage is going to be reduced with every single hit. So we'll just rush and we'll see some red text come up. It's resisted a crit, you saw, and obviously just reduced the amount of damage that he was going to take. Still did get heavily controlled, but I did like the little marker that came up above Priya's head just to show that the crit was resisted. So I think that was 1 of 3 attacks, that resisted a crit, and then that crit would not be able to rampage in that situation. And this would work against any character who would obviously hit a crit. Princess, Andrea, the mythic characters we've already looked at with rampage weapons. So it'd be a massive issue. And focusing Darius seems to be a big no-no. And you've got to keep your fingers crossed that the extra stuff on like someone like Princess with the random attacks doesn't actually go to him either. Now, he has got quite a little bit of crit in his kit, and it doesn't seem to play into anything in his passives. However, it does play into that specialist skill. It is life steal. When this character performs a critical hit, they will regain 15% of their max health. This, of course, is going to work with that signature move every single time because it's a guaranteed crit. It could work with each of the separate attacks on his rush. And this is where he's going to have a little bit of self-sustain. It might not sound like a lot, and generally lifesteal isn't great, but the way this kit's been built up, especially the fact that he gets bonus healing off of any heals received, he's going to be quite hard to take down. You know, on a defense team, he's got 15k HP and defense base. You know, those could easily get hugely buffed. You've got someone like Trader who's got 5k of each, getting up to like 12k of each buffed. So I think Darius could easily get up to like 25, maybe even up to like 30 to 35k defense and HP, depending on how all out you go on his weapon and his mods. Okay, so here we are on turn 2. You can see that I did manage to get Darius focused. It took a little while. Because he's a tank, they're generally going to ignore him a lot of the time. I can go up against Jesus, and we are going to use the signature move, and he should get some healing based on the damage he does. 15%, and you can see he healed for 6,000 because of lifesteal. That obviously is kind of crazy. That is actually kind of crazy. The amount of HP he could heal up because of that is obviously because of his passives, his, you know, lifesteal specialist. He also did proc the 15% on the weapon as well. Do remember, there's lots of things that can play into this kit. So that actually wasn't too bad. What we're going to do is we're going to line up the next turn as well. Hopefully he gets focused once more. He does get focused. And it should work on his rush as well. He's actually got 15% because it was 2 turns. But we'll just rush someone. And he should get some heals if he hits a crit here. He does hit a crit. Now he's full HP. And he's doing a lot of damage as well. So his damage output isn't actually terrible. But I definitely see him as more of a defense team character. So this lifesteal, I think, has been written off by a lot of people, let's be honest, myself included. But here it seems to work. I've always been someone who said that percentages are generally extremely powerful. 15% of 100 means someone's getting healed for 15 HP for every 100 damage they do. If they're only hitting for 100, it isn't that good. But when you're hitting for thousands like these mythic characters are, that suddenly gets ramped up massively. It did get a big bonus on top as well because of the 15% from the stun on attack, healing stun weapon he had in his hands. But that's how his kit can work. He can definitely bring a lot of sustain to the table, and he needs it, honestly. As a strong character, like I said, can't really hold any sustain weapons, anything that buffs him, and he's going to do quite a lot of sustain with that, as long as he doesn't get hard controlled. If he gets soft controlled, like confused, he can still hit the crits to get that to happen. You know, if he gets taunted, he can still hit the crits. But if he gets stunned, that's where he's in a lot of trouble. Now, he has got an attached weapon, and we will go across to look at it. Darius's Hopeful Broadsword is a really nice looking two-handed sword on the left hand side. Once you fully upgrade it, it'll probably look the same. Its base stats are 25% HP, a medium bonus to AP when taking damage, bonus defense, 30% defense when HP is more than 70%. I'm going to write this weapon off stats wise instantly and say that you don't even have to upgrade it as it is, because it is just not very good at all. Just make it a 5-star weapon instantly if you do want to use Darius as a character and put a weapon in his hands. You're going to upgrade this. It's going to take a lot to upgrade. You're not going to get the best upgrades. You can definitely start with a 4-star weapon that you've already got and get him a really nice weapon mate. Going defensive is definitely the way to go, and because he is a strong character, there aren't too many 4 slots that are actually good for strong characters, so you could just like throw 30% defense in at the 4 slot and have HP and defense on the weapon and AP on attack. You will need AP on attack on the defense team to get that rush going though, so you either have to decide which stat you want the most, HP or defense. The higher the HP is, the more he's going to heal. The higher the defense is, the less damage he's going to take. It's a fine balance for sure. So that is Mythic Darius. He is one of the easier characters to come by in the mythic tokens from the museum, and you can get 2 of those gold ones like I said before. So you could get him to tier 5. He is extremely tanky. He's basically like those early tanks we've seen in the previous eras, but I think he's better. You know, you can compare him to like Kapoor, or you could compare him to someone like Negan in the 6-star era, where they're very heavy tanks to deal with the old era quite well. But I think he's going to do quite well even against mythic characters, because he's got such high base stats, and because obviously he's got really good sustain. There is high potential that he's just going to be a frustration, that thorn in your side, and that damage cannot be underestimated, because I do believe a lot of people are going to go all out glass cannon on a couple of their damage dealers. If Darius rushes you, you're in so much trouble. They can crit, he's going to have crit buffs, and obviously he's going to be taunting attack down if he doesn't manage to take them out anyway, and then obviously he'll follow up because of his passive onto the taunted characters, potentially just finishing off characters. I like this guy for defense, and he's definitely going to be in my thoughts when it comes to a defense team out of the initial characters we get, in terms of who is going to be that big tank that could go on a defense team. But do give me your thoughts on Mythic Darius. I know there are a couple of you out there who have wanted an S-Class Darius for a very long time, so I know a lot of you are going to be happy that we have got a Mythic Darius on the way. I'm not too sure about his posture on the right-hand side. Looks a bit hunched over. Maybe that armor's a bit heavier than it should be. But like I say, do give me your thoughts down below in the comments. If you did find this video useful or enjoy it, please hit the like button. If you are not a subscriber to my channel, please think about hitting subscribe. If you are subscribing, please turn on all notifications to be told when my videos are released, when my live streams go live. But that is the end of this video today, guys. I want to thank you very much for tuning in. And as always, keep on surviving, guys. Keep on surviving.